Devil Fruit Awakenings are kinda underrated. Just like Conqueror's Haki, it's something very few characters in the story has shown, but we haven't really treated it in the same regard. And part of that, I think, is because we haven't seen anything insanely impressive out of Awakening. Doflamingo and Katakuri were able to change their environment, and the Jailer Beasts were a lot stronger and durable, but none of that feels that impactful. Despite that, I think what we've seen is only starting to scratch the surface of what's possible with Devil Fruit Awakenings. And as we get closer to the end of One Piece, we're gonna continue to see some insane Devil Fruit Awakening abilities from some major characters. So in this video, I want to talk about who else has awakened their Devil Fruit, like the Yonko, the Revolutionaries, the Admirals, and more. And also we'll be speculating what their Devil Fruit Awakening powers and abilities could look like. But first off, if you are not ready, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can join our King Pirates crew. Drop a like for the YouTube algorithm if you have a good time watching this video. And also download Raid Shadow Legends using my links in the description. If you don't know already, Raid Shadow Legends is one of the biggest RPG games out right now. And I really love this game because it has some of the same things that I love about One Piece. We all know One Piece has incredible world building with its terrific story and deep lore. Well, with Raid Shadow Legends, you can get a similar experience firsthand by entering the world of Teleria to explore a brand new world packed with history, lore, and amazing stories. To play the game, you can use my links below to download it to your phone or PC, but I also want to talk a little bit about the game modes in Raid Shadow Legends because there's a lot of fun ways you can use your champions to compete and take on missions. There's the classic campaign mode, which is the first thing you get access to. There's dungeons, which give you a different style of gameplay that requires more strategy, where you have waves of enemies and a difficult final boss. And trust me, you will actually need a strategy or you're gonna get wrecked just like I did. And if that wasn't enough, the newest boss just released in Raid is the biggest and craziest yet. This thing is a Hydra with multiple heads, each one a complete boss battle on its own. There's a head of Blight, which is all about poison. It poisons you, it leeches you, and it protects itself with a poison cloud. The head of Torment is also terrifying. The only way to stop it is hiding your champions with veil buffs, which isn't easy to get a hold of. Meanwhile, the head of Mischief loves your buffs and wants them all to itself. It targets the champion with the most buffs, then steals them and spreads those stolen buffs to all the other heads. The head of Wrath is the very angry damage dealer. It weakens and provokes your team, and when you've hit it 15 times, it gets a new buff called Vengeance, tripling its attack power, which can wipe you out in one go. The head of Decay is about tearing you down and building up its allies. It makes your team's healing actually lower their HP, so healing isn't always a good thing. Lastly, there's the head of Suffering, and it's the Hydra's main tank head. It brings a new debuff called Pain Link, which causes your champions to take damage whenever you attack the head of Suffering. So there's plenty of fun ways to test out your new champions as you collect them. Speaking of which, Raid is currently giving away a super limited champion to every single player in the game. Some of you might recognize him already, but it's esports legend and Navi superstar Simple. And between now and January 28th, 2022, Simple's limited edition champion is available for free to both new and old players in Raid. All you have to do is log in 7 days from now to January 28th and he's all yours. So if you miss this opportunity, you miss out forever, so you definitely don't want to wait around. There's seriously never been a better time to explore the world of Teleria, and if you use my link in the description or scan my QR code, you'll get an epic champion Aina, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon amazing champions as soon as you get in the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you right here as soon as you get into the game, so make sure you claim it. So click the link in the description to start your new adventure, and thank you Raid for sponsoring this video. Alright, but to start things off, I think the best way to do this is to break these candidates into different sections, and let's start things off with the top of the pirate world with the Yonko. Within the Yonko, if we include Luffy, there are 4 Devil Fruit users. Shanks probably doesn't have a Devil Fruit, but at this point, who knows? We don't know anything about the guy. But the first 2 candidates I want to talk about are the 2 OGs, and that is Kaido and Big Mom. These are the 2 Yonko that are the oldest, they have the highest bounties, and they have the most experience. And given their experience in age and power, I expect both of them to have their Devil Fruits awakened. Because not only are they both ridiculously strong, but one thing that comes with their experience is how much time they've had with their Devil Fruits. Big Mom, for example, has had her Devil Fruit since she was a kid. So she's had like over 60 years to get used to her Devil Fruit powers and continue to develop them. Kaido, on the other hand, is a little younger at 58 years old, but he's also had a good amount of time with his Devil Fruits. So I think when it comes to Big Mom and Kaido, I would be shocked if they haven't awakened their Devil Fruits. Like Katakuri is Big Mom's son, and he's already awakened his Devil Fruit. So I expect Big Mom and Kaido to both already be awakened, and when it comes to their power, it's kind of scary to even think about. Because even without awakening so far, both of them have been incredibly terrifying. Starting with Big Mom, she has the Soul Fruit, which is a Paramecia Devil Fruit. Her Devil Fruit gives her the ability to manipulate souls, which essentially kind of allows her to just play God. god. She can literally take people's lifespan away and use that to create new life with homies. So already it's a terrifying ability, but if it's awakened, it could do even more. Given that it's a paramecia, we do have some examples to go off of with Doflamingo and Katakuri's fruits. And I've talked about this before, but given what we've seen so far, it seems that paramecia devil fruit awakenings allow you to apply your powers beyond yourself. So that could be the environment like Doflamingo and Katakuri did, or even just other objects. Now if we use that logic and apply it to Big Mom's devil fruits, it's gonna look a little different from Doflamingo and Katakuri's, but it's still gonna give her some terrifying abilities that I think will shore up some of the few weaknesses the devil fruit has. Because right now, two of the biggest weaknesses her devil fruit has is that, number one, she has to physically touch you and rip the soul out of you to take away your lifespan, and number two, when she takes that lifespan out of you, you have to be afraid of her. But if she awakens her devil fruit, she might be able to negate both of those weaknesses. First off, her having to physically rip out people's lifespans, I think that will definitely be negated with devil fruit awakening, because that was one thing we saw with Doflamingo where he was able to turn buildings into distance into string without actually touching it. So just that alone gives Big Mom a major power boost where essentially she can create a radius where if you're just afraid of her, she could just take your life away. The second weakness I'm a little unsure about, because if she could just forcibly take out anybody's lifespan, that's a little broken. I guess one way you could maybe still counter that is using your haki. So maybe it's not as broken as it seems, but you still have to kind of just use your haki all the time to make sure she doesn't just take your lifespan away. Now one counter to this that people are probably going to bring up is, why didn't she use this power against Jinbei? And I think the simple answer is she didn't really need to. Like, of course she was mad at Jinbei for leaving, but I'm not sure it would have warranted her using Devil Fruit Awakening just to take his lifespan away, especially if Devil Fruit Awakening really drains your energy. Plus with Big Mom not using it during that moment in Whole Cake Island, it now sets up for her potentially using it in Wano and showing that she's even more terrifying than we thought. But I think if Big Mom doesn't use her Devil Fruit Awakening in Wano, most likely she's going to Elbaf and that's where she's gonna use it. Kaido on the other hand, I think will definitely use it in Wano because he's the main villain of the arc. Now when it comes to his powers, he is a zone Devil Fruit, which we do have precedent for with the Jailer Beast. So based off of that information, Kaido probably has a stronger, more durable form when he awakens, but he's also a Mythical Zoan, so there's another factor that plays into it. And for Mythical Zoans, we don't have any precedent for, so we just have to speculate here. But I would imagine it's kind of similar to Paramecia's because some Mythical Zoans kind of function like Paramecia's. But when it comes to Kaido's Mythical Zone powers, he has a few special ones to stand out. The two he uses the most are the Flame Clouds, which he uses to fly, and then the Burrow Blast, which seems like his favorite attack. Now first off, when it comes to the Flame Clouds, I feel like in the manga, we're already seeing an awakened version of that. I'm not gonna get into spoilers in this video, but essentially it's him generating more clouds to pick up other things. His attacks on the other hand, like the Burrow Blast, that's where it gets kind of hard to figure out how Devil Fruit Awakening is gonna elevate that. I think most likely it's just gonna be a pretty simple power up where it's just a stronger blast. The only other thing I could think of as far as him affecting the environment is somehow changing the weather, because I think that's one way Logia Awakenings could work. But overall, when it comes to Kaido, I think he'll definitely show off Awakening at some point in Wano, and he's gonna be even more terrifying than he is now. Moving on from that though, the two Yonko we have left to talk about are Luffy and Blackbeard. And Luffy I'm actually not gonna talk about in this video because I did an entire video on his awakening that you can check out right here. So let's move on to potentially Luffy's greatest rival, and that is Blackbeard. Now Blackbeard awakening his devil fruits is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, especially because this upcoming Friday I'm doing a top 30 power scaling stream, which probably already happened by the time this video comes out, so you can check out the VOD on the second channel in the description. But yeah, Blackbeard I think is a very interesting case because narratively, a lot of people believe he's definitely gonna be one of the final villains for Luffy. So eventually he's most likely gonna surpass the strength of even Kaido and Big Mom. But even though a lot of people believe that, I feel like the general consensus right now is that he's not there yet, and that whatever he's going after now, that's gonna be the thing that elevates him to that next level. And that's pretty much been my thought process for a long time, but now that I'm really thinking about it, why can't he already be that strong? Like sure, he's going after something, but that could be anything. It could be an ancient weapon. And I think one belief that's kind of changed is Blackbeard already having his third devil fruits as opposed to going after a third right now. Which by the way, I did an entire video on Blackbeard's third devil fruit that you can check out right here. But the more I think about it, the more I like the idea that Blackbeard already has his third devil fruit. So instead of him just getting this devil fruit last minute and powering up, instead maybe he already has his third devil fruit and has been just working the past 2 years on awakening every single devil fruit he has. Which I think would also line up with Blackbeard's goals because he's been going after devil fruits. So if he really wanted to maximize his powers, I would think awakening is very valuable. And honestly, just imagine how devastating devil fruit awakening could be for Blackbeard if he just awakened his 2 devil fruits that he already has. The Quake fruit is one of the most devastating devil fruits in the One Piece world. Sengoku literally said himself it has the power to destroy the world, and I think the awakening abilities of that fruit could be pretty simple as well, where first off it just becomes even more devastating, like actually strong enough to take down islands, and then second of all maybe he can expand his range where it's like just not the nearby stuff that he can punch and crack, but maybe now he could generate like multiple earthquakes at the same time in a radius. That alone gives Blackbeard a massive power boost in terms of just devastation. And then he has the Yami Yami no Mi, which is a Logia and a much more complex devil fruit, but it's just as powerful. First off, it not only has the ability to control gravity so it could kind of pull you in and compress you, but it also gives you the broken power to literally nullify devil fruit powers. And I think with this power, just simply being able to use it without actually physically touching somebody makes it very broken. If he could straight up nullify devil fruit powers in a certain area, he completely controls the battlefield. And then on top of that, he might be able to just apply gravity wherever he wants. That would just completely tip the scales in his favor. And that kind of allows him to really balance out his two devil fruits, where the Yami Yami no Mi really weakens the opponent, and then he has the Quake fruit to really devastate them. And that's not even mentioning the potential third devil fruit he might have. So honestly, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Blackbeard is already awakened and he is already at his endgame strength. But with that being said, let's finally move on to our next group of candidates with the Admirals. Now the Admirals are pretty much all candidates because they all have devil fruits. Green Bull's the only one we don't know about, even though I do think he probably has one. But for this video, we're gonna leave him out of it. And as far as the Admirals go, I think they're all awakened. Like first off, let's talk about the original trio with Kizaru, Akainu, and Aokiji. All three of them, as we've seen in the story, are incredibly strong, but they're also very experienced. Through different flashbacks, we also saw that they've had their devil fruits for a while. Like Aokiji had his Ice fruit in the Robin flashback, and Kizaru had his devil fruit when he faced up against Arlong. And Akainu, I'm just gonna guess he's had his as well. So the fact that they have that experience with their devil fruits and they're incredibly strong, I see no reason why they're not all awakened. But if I had to pick, the two I'm most confident in are Aokiji and Akainu, and that's because of their 10-day battle on Punk Hazard that completely changed the environment and even the weather. And given how drastically they changed the environment on Punk Hazard, people have speculated that they used awakening powers to do so. And I think that explanation makes perfect sense, even though we haven't seen Logia awakenings in the story. But I think in the same way Katakuri and Doflamingo were able to apply their powers through the environment, Logia should be able to do so as well. Now maybe where things go another level for Logias is that they're actually able to change the weather, because it wasn't just like the ground that changed up in Punk Hazard, it was also the climate. So I think the best guess I have right now on what Logia awakenings allow you to do is just completely change the environment to whatever your Logia element is. Which makes me really want to see that battle between Aokiji and Akainu, because they were probably just fighting over the environment for 10 straight days. I just need a glimpse, Oda. I don't need the whole fight, I just need a little bit. Oda makes us into like drug addicts with his off-screen fights. But yeah, that's my speculation on Akainu and Aokiji. And as far as Kizaru goes, although he's also a Logia, I think his power is going to be a little different, because his element is light and he doesn't really use it the same way as Akainu and Aokiji. Like mostly he just uses it to travel around and launches attacks with it. He never really uses it on the environment, like freezing the ocean or sending a lava pool out. So as far as his awakening abilities goes, I don't think he's really going to be changing the environment, but I do think it could allow him to launch attacks from any direction in a certain radius. So in his own way, he's still affecting the environment, but using it in this way is much more effective for him, because now he'll have some crazy unpredictability with his attacks. Not only is he darting around moving super fast, but also there's like random light attacks just shooting out everywhere. I've always said I want to see a fight between Sanji and Kizaru, because it would really test Sanji's observation hockey, because if Kizaru is able to use his awakened powers in that way, you really need to just be able to predict what he's doing next to even defend yourself. Another thing he might be able to do is use light as like a blinding effect. So like while he's launching all these unpredictable fast attacks, he's also launching flashbangs. The light fruit might not be the most devastating, but it's definitely incredibly powerful. But moving on to the last Admiral, we have Fujitora. He has a Paramecia devil fruit that allows him to control gravity. And with Fujitora, the more I thought about it, isn't he already awakened? Because I feel like the basic power of the devil fruit is to be able to apply that gravitational force to things and people around you. Like when he's fighting Zoro, he could send him into the ground, or he could just pick up all the debris around him. But also in Dressrosa, we saw this man bring down meteors. And I think that's a little different than just applying that force to something that's close by you, because that's all the way out in space. Like I don't think any random person that eats that devil fruit is able to do that. So honestly, I think Fujitora has already shown that he's awakened his devil fruits, and pretty much it just allows him to apply that gravitational force to an insane range. So overall, I think every single Admiral is awakened, and most likely Green Bull is as well. But moving on to our next group, we have the Revolutionaries, and the first person we're gonna start with is the top dog Monkey D Dragon. Now this is the first person that we're speculating about that we don't even know has a devil fruit or not, but because of what we saw in Loketown, where he seemingly saved Luffy with a lightning bolt, default, the only logical explanation is that he has a devil fruit. Now, as far as what this devil fruit could be, I still don't really have a confident guess, because technically the attack he used was a lightning, but that's a Nell's fruit. So it would have to be some other option, like a Paramecia weather fruit. That could be a really cool devastating power where he could just create a bunch of natural disasters. The cloud fruit is one I thought of. It sounds kind of goofy, but essentially he could just create a bunch of Zeuses and generate the weather that way. Another popular theory I've seen is like the water fruit, but I feel like that's a little too broken given how devil fruit users are weak to water. Feels like that just kind of breaks the system. But yeah, whatever Dragon's devil fruit is, I definitely think he's awakened. As you'll see on my top 30 list, I really think Dragon is top tier. I actually think he's kind of slept on just because he's not in the story that much. But like, just think about that Monkey D family and how much power is in there. Luffy's gonna become the future Pirate King and probably gonna be the strongest of all time. Meanwhile, Garp was going head to head with the previous Pirate King. So I don't expect Dragon to be any different, and I think people are low-key sleeping on how strong he could be. Besides him though, I don't really think anybody else within the Revolutionaries are awakened. Karasu is an interesting one. He seems like one of the stronger officers, but we just don't know enough information about his devil fruit or his power. Just in terms of ability, I think Sabo should be awakened, but this man literally just got his devil fruit like 2 months ago, so I don't expect him to already awaken it. Besides that though, I have some other characters that I want to talk about that are potentially awakened. First off, we have the Beast Pirates, out of which I think King and Queen are likely awakened. They both have some of the highest bounties we've seen out of Yonko commanders, and low-key this just kind of plays into me wanting to see Sanji and Zoro have tougher fights. But as far as what their awakened abilities will be, I think it will be pretty simple. I think it'll be just like the Jailer Beast where they get stronger forms, but because they're ancient zones, it's gonna be even stronger. Another person a lot of people think is awakened is Crocodile, because the way he used his ability in Alabasta where he was completely changing like the environment, it seems like the same thing Doflamingo and Katakuri were doing. The only difference is Alabasta is already a desert, so he's kinda in his element. But I love Crocodile as a character. I really want to see him return to the story, so I think he could be awakened. Probably gonna do a Crocodile video soon, so be on the lookout for that. Speaking of former villains though, this one I kinda just want to see, and that is Enel. I still have no idea how and if Enel is gonna return to the story ever, but if he does, I really want to see him come back even stronger with an awakened devil fruit, because if we're being real here, he got really unlucky against Luffy. Luffy is literally the perfect counter to him, and if it wasn't for that, he has one of the strongest devil fruits in the world as well. So I'm not sure if we'll end up seeing it, but I hope Enel comes back with awakened devil fruits. Besides that though, there's not anybody else that I'm confident is awakened. I guess Sengoku I think would be awakened, but at this point he's retired. Some of the Blackbeard pirates could be awakened because they're gonna be endgame opponents for the Straw Hats, but because most of them just recently got their devil fruit, it feels too early for it. There's also the Supernova, which I'm not gonna talk about in this video because it's already happening in the manga, and then there's the Straw Hats who I talked about in this video. We're doing a simple coin flip this time. If it lands on Tails, you have to like, subscribe, and watch this video. There it is, Tails.